The year is 2024, a time of rapid change and unexpected twists. The name is familiar, Sean Combs, the music mogul better known as P. Diddy, a titan in the entertainment industry. But the image is jarring. Diddy, in an orange jumpsuit, his face etched with a mix of disbelief and defiance, a stark contrast to his usual confident demeanor. Charged with a string of financial crimes, he was remanded to the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York to await trial. The charges included money laundering, tax evasion, and fraud. The man who built an empire on music, fashion, and a larger-than-life persona now faced the harsh realities of the American justice system. His performances and fashion shows, once symbols of his success, now seem like distant memories. His story, however, is not just about one man's fall from grace. It is a narrative that touches on broader societal issues. It is a stark reminder of the systemic issues that plague the American prison system, including overcrowding, harsh conditions, and the often unequal application of justice. Diddy's arrest sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry and beyond. News outlets and social media were abuzz with speculation and commentary. Here was a man who had achieved the pinnacle of success, a self-made millionaire who had become a cultural icon, known for his luxurious lifestyle and philanthropic efforts. But his arrest was a stark reminder that success, even on a grand scale, offered no immunity from the long arm of the law. The courtroom, a place he had likely never imagined himself, now became a central part of his life. The charges against him were serious, and if found guilty, he faced a significant prison sentence. The outcome of his trial could have far-reaching implications not just for him, but for the industry he helped shape. Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York. The name itself evokes images of a brutal, unforgiving place. Located in Brooklyn, a stone's throw from the bustling streets of New York City, the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York, is a world away from the glamour and wealth of the city. It is a place of confinement, of deprivation, of violence. For decades, the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York, has been a stain on the city's conscience, a grim reminder of the human cost of mass incarceration. Stories of brutality, neglect, and corruption have long emanated from its imposing walls. Overcrowding is rampant, with inmates often crammed into cells designed for a fraction of the population. Violence, both between inmates and at the hands of guards, is endemic. The majority of inmates are Black and Hispanic, reflecting the disproportionate impact of mass incarceration on minority communities. Gone were the silk sheets and the penthouse views, the symbols of a life filled with opulence and comfort. In their place, a cramped concrete cell at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York, furnished with a bunk bed and a steel toilet, a stark contrast to his previous surroundings. This was Diddy's new reality, a far cry from the luxurious world he once inhabited, a world that now seemed like a distant memory. The transition was jarring, to say the least, a shock to his system that he was still struggling to process. The constant noise, the lack of privacy, the ever-present threat of violence. It was a sensory overload that left him feeling disoriented and vulnerable. Every day was a battle to maintain his sanity. The days were long and monotonous, each one blending into the next with a mind-numbing regularity. Breakfast was served at dawn, a lukewarm concoction that was barely edible, a far cry from the gourmet meals he once enjoyed. This was followed by hours of idleness, punctuated by the occasional head count or visit from his legal team, moments that offered a brief distraction from the tedium. The prison yard, a concrete enclosure surrounded by barbed wire fences, offered a brief respite from the confines of his cell, a small taste of freedom in an otherwise oppressive environment. For Diddy, accustomed to the finer things in life, the deprivation was both physical and psychological. The loss of his luxurious lifestyle was a constant reminder of his fall from grace. He missed his children, his family, his friends. The isolation was the hardest part, a loneliness that gnawed at him day and night, making the days even longer and more unbearable. Life inside the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York was governed by an intricate set of rules and routines. It was a world of steel and concrete where every movement was monitored, every action scrutinized. For Diddy, navigating this new reality was a crash course in survival. He had to learn to adapt, to be vigilant, to be wary of both inmates and guards. He had to shed his celebrity persona and embrace the anonymity of prison life. The other inmates were a mixed bag. Some were hardened criminals, serving lengthy sentences for violent crimes. Others were young men, caught in the crosshairs of the war on drugs, their lives derailed by addiction and poverty. He quickly learned that trust was a rare commodity within the walls of the Metropolitan Detention Center. Alliances were formed out of necessity, often based on shared experiences or gang affiliations. Section 5. Voices from the Inside, Echoes of Despair. The stories of the other inmates painted a grim picture of life inside the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York. Each tale was a window into the harsh realities faced daily by those behind bars. There was Michael, a young father incarcerated for a non-violent drug offense. Separated from his children, he felt an overwhelming sense of loss and helplessness. He struggled to maintain his sanity in the face of crushing despair. The isolation and the constant noise made it hard to think, let alone hope. He spoke of the lack of access to educational programs which could have been a lifeline for many of them, the few job training opportunities which were often outdated and insufficient, and the sense of hopelessness that permeated every aspect of prison life. It felt like a never-ending cycle of despair. Then there was James, a veteran who had served his country with honor, only to be forgotten by the very nation he fought for. He found himself caught in a downward spiral of PTSD and addiction after returning home. His cries for help often went unanswered. The inadequate mental health care available to inmates was a critical issue for many. The long wait times to see a therapist, which could stretch into months, and the lack of medication. This neglect only deepened their suffering. These stories, each one a testament to the failings of the justice system, resonated deeply with Diddy. They were echoes of despair that demanded to be heard. Section 6. Diddy's Case, A Nation Divided. News of Diddy's arrest and subsequent incarceration at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn sent shockwaves through the nation. His case became a lightning rod for debate, igniting passionate discussions about wealth, privilege, and the fairness of the American justice system. Public opinion was sharply divided. Some saw Diddy's arrest as a victory for justice, proof that even the rich and famous were not above the law. They argued that his wealth and status should not shield him from accountability for his alleged crimes. Others, however, viewed his situation with a more critical eye. They pointed to the systemic biases inherent in the criminal justice system, arguing that Diddy's wealth and fame may have actually worked against him. Section 7. The Public Reacts, A Spectrum of Opinions. The court of public opinion was in session, and the case of the people versus Sean P. Diddy Combs was the hottest ticket in town. Social media platforms became virtual jury rooms, with users weighing in on Diddy's guilt or innocence. Celebrities, never ones to shy away from the spotlight, also chimed in. Some, like rapper Cardi B, expressed support for Diddy, urging her followers to remember that he was innocent until proven guilty. Others, like comedian Bill Maher, used the occasion to take aim at what they saw as a culture of celebrity entitlement. Section 8. A Broken System Exposed, Calls for Reform. Diddy's incarceration, his very presence at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York, shone a harsh light on the underbelly of the American justice system. The deplorable conditions he witnessed firsthand, the stories he heard from fellow inmates, served as a stark reminder of a system in crisis.
His case became a rallying cry for activists and reformers who had long been calling for change. They pointed to the need for alternatives to incarceration, for investments in mental health and addiction treatment.
The call for reform resonated beyond the activist community. Even those who had previously been indifferent to the plight of the incarcerated were moved by Diddy's experience. The conversation shifted from one of punishment to one of redemption. Section 9. Seeds of Change, Justice Reform Initiatives. Amidst the despair and the calls for change, there were glimmers of hope. Across the country, a growing movement for criminal justice reform was gaining momentum. States were experimenting with new approaches to sentencing, reducing prison populations, and investing in alternatives to incarceration. In New York City, the epicenter of Diddy's legal troubles, a plan to close the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn was moving forward. The plan called for replacing the notorious jail complex with smaller, more humane facilities located throughout the city. These reform efforts, while still in their early stages, represented a significant shift in thinking about criminal justice. Section 10. Beyond Diddy's Cell. A Systemic Reckoning. Diddy's journey through the criminal justice system, while unique in its celebrity, was ultimately a story about something much bigger than one man's experience. It was a story about a system in need of a radical overhaul. But it was also a story about hope. The hope that Diddy's experience, his willingness to speak out about the injustices he witnessed, would serve as a catalyst for change. The hope that his story would inspire others to join the fight for criminal justice reform at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York. Section 11. Hope on the Horizon. A more just future. The future of criminal justice reform in America remains uncertain. The road ahead is long and arduous. There will be setbacks and disappointments. But amidst the challenges, there is reason for cautious optimism. The national conversation about criminal justice has shifted. Diddy's experience at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York, while deeply personal, has the potential to serve as a turning point. His willingness to use his platform to shine a light on the injustices of the system has helped to move the needle on this critical issue. His story is a reminder that the fight for justice is far from over.